Yuka leaps forward, calling out desperately to her grandpa as a rush of intense emotion fills her small frame. She races through tall grass, reaching out and shouting, her heart pounding to be acknowledged. Her grandpa's gentle voice reassures her, describing her as the little one he cherishes amid the peaceful greenery. He carefully offers her a precious ring, a symbol of his trust, as she looks at him with wide eyes full of hope. Though concerned for her safety, he entrusts her with the treasured ring, knowing she longs to prove herself worthy. Now older and more resolved, Yuka stands before a solemn gathering, reflecting on how every step and challenge has shaped her determination to be strong for the future. In a solemn hall filled with mourners, Yuka stands alone facing a casket at the front, the weight of loss pressing down on everyone present. A single dog keeps vigil on top of the closed coffin, silent amid the heavy grief, as whispers of resemblance to Grandpa echo around. A young figure in ceremonial attire looks up with haunted eyes and asks for the ring, her voice echoing through the silence. She receives a simple response questioning her motives, shadows deepening across her downcast face. Yuka stands defiant, refusing to let go of her grandfather's ring and insisting it was a treasured gift, her stance unwavering against family tradition. A nearby elder explains that the cursed ring must now belong to her brother, sealing the loss with the harsh reality of clan duties and legacy. Yuka rushes desperately down the corridor, calling out for Tsurugi and demanding the return of what was taken from her. Tears streaming down her cheeks, she clutches her grandfather's ring and reflects on its deep importance, her heart aching with loss. Tsurugi, formally dressed, stands silently as the voice next to him urges Yuka not to blame him for the family's cruel decision. Yuka reaches out angrily, insisting on having her ring back, her fist clenched with trembling determination. A single crow circles above the quiet house, punctuating the scene with an ominous sense of finality. Yuka collapses into comforting arms, her sobs echoing with the pain of possession and family separation. As the words "only Tsurugi is suited for this ring" echo in the darkness, the children's game takes on a deadly seriousness, cutting short any last hope of change. In a cluttered shed, a group of kids gather around a board game, one groaning in defeat as the others recount the game's high stakes and rules. With a shrug, one boy dismisses the game's cruelty, assuring the others that it's nothing unusual, while quietly wondering about its effect. Another boy chimes in, half-jokingly questioning if children their age should even play such games, but his friend reassures him that it's perfectly normal. The view widens to reveal the small group playing in the center of a dimly lit, lonely shed, the space echoing their insistence that this strange normalcy belongs to them. Years later, Yuka and Tsurugi stand together as young adults overlooking the city, the heavy past between them, their words carrying the weight of tradition and the hope for a future beyond those games. Inspector Marulu Val-Yelvori introduces himself formally, his confident gaze meeting the group as he welcomes them to call him Maru. Yuka reacts with surprise at the presence of a Jujutsu sorcerer from another country, her voice tinged with curiosity and skepticism. Maru calmly explains the unique nature of cursed energy in Japan, noting how abductions target Japanese sorcerers because of this trait. He adds that while most Jujutsu sorcerers are Japanese, rare exceptions like himself do exist and end up drawn into Japan's mysterious world. Tsurugi and his companions discuss the mission's stakes, brushing off the danger as mere investigation and joking that they won't face any real threat. A newcomer gasps in confusion, repeating the ominous words "curse users," as the realization of the risk begins to sink in. Tsurugi's sharp profile stands boldly against the sky, voicing concern that he must be prepared for anything and careful with every detail. The team banters in a crowded conversation, each expressing their doubts, frustrations, and determination to face whatever lies ahead. An outburst erupts as Tsurugi warns that curse users are even worse than Jujutsu sorcerers, the tension pushing the others to the edge. Inspector Marulu watches from the sidelines, mentally noting the group's intense dynamics and calling the pair vicious with a wry smile. The team pauses as Yuka recalls the recent treaty and the expected inspector visit, drawing everyone into reflection about the looming investigation. Marulu vows to observe the Earthlings personally, determined to uncover the true nature of their powers and confront the mysteries ahead. On a quiet riverside, an official clarifies to the team that he is ordered not to interfere, drawing a firm boundary before the mission begins. The inspector strides ahead, reminding everyone not to rely on him, no matter the circumstances, and moves deliberately away from the others. As the inspector walks off, Tsurugi and Yuka react with annoyance, quickly deciding to go ahead without him and taking the initiative. Yuka shouts after him as the inspector disappears into the distance, his aloofness fueling her frustration over his attitude. Tsurugi launches into a fast sprint, his voice trailing behind, annoyed that the inspector acts as if he's some sort of privileged guest. From far overhead, a crow soars while the inspector glances back, the scene charged with tension and a sense of watching eyes. At the riverbank, the group sits in a heavy silence, the distance between them marked by unspoken worries and regret. Inspector Marulu buries his face in his arms, closing himself off from the others, lost in silent contemplation. A gentle voice approaches with quiet footsteps, reminding Marulu that there's no need to cry or shoulder all the blame alone. Yuka looks up, rationalizing the situation with a bitter laugh, wondering if they are being painted as the bad guys. A simple "oh" marks an awkward beat as everyone processes her remark, uncertainty lingering in the air like a question left unanswered. Marulu tries to change the mood, tipping his head back as he bites into something, only to react with comic surprise when it turns out to be much too hot. In a bustling Kansai restaurant, voices rise above the chatter as someone teases about crying over takoyaki, assuring there's no reason since it's easily found anywhere. Over plates piled high, another diner marvels at the street food and asks if it's really available throughout Kyoto and Osaka, sparking friendly debate. Inspector Marulu holds up his chopsticks and grins, declaring that Japan has everything, his eyes wide with culinary amazement. Apologies and jokes are exchanged at the table, everyone insisting the meal warrants fair repayment, but laughter keeps the mood light. Across the riverside, the group recalls recent events, voices overlapping in reminiscence as they walk side by side, processing old wounds and new beginnings. Tsurugi fingers the ring around his neck, quietly explaining its history and importance as a family heirloom passed down from his grandfather. The group lounges along a riverside bench, idly chatting about how little separates them except for age, the air filled with a relaxed camaraderie. One friend points out the historic cityscape of Kyoto, though everyone agrees that the real heart of Kansai lies further north, closer to Osaka's lively spirit. Yuka vents her frustration about the ring, feeling Tsurugi's reluctance is just an attempt to seek attention, and wonders aloud why he doesn't recognize her efforts. She stands tall, declaring that she's putting in just as much hard work, and insists that Tsurugi lacks any true connection to their grandfather. Tsurugi's face grows distant, the silence revealing a wound that runs deeper than words, as memories and grievances linger in the space between them. A friend tries to lift the mood with humor, suggesting they test their strength with a sumo match, blending rivalry and affection in a single light-hearted gesture. Inspector Marulu lands energetically in front of Yuka, insisting that if they completed the mission together, it would look like he did all the work himself. Yuka meets his gaze and reminds him sternly that acting alone is against the very code of their profession. Marulu pauses, momentarily at a loss for words, as the truth of Yuka's statement settles in with unexpected weight. Laughing awkwardly, Yuka clarifies that she never claimed she'd do everything herself and tries to diffuse the tension. The team exchanges playful banter, poking fun at Marulu for failing to keep up and joking about who really showed up to the scene first. Suddenly, a burst of panic breaks out as someone shouts, "Crap," echoing through the narrow city street and shifting the mood in an instant. Yuka searches meticulously for clues along the street, remarking that an amateur would miss the subtle signs that only an inspector can find. A flash of triumph lights her face as she discovers something, calling out excitedly to the group and capturing Tsurugi's immediate attention. Tsurugi rounds the corner, eyes wide with anticipation, asking if Yuka really found something important at last. As they navigate the winding roads, the group puzzles over direction, consulting Marulu on which way he wants to turn at each intersection. They debate the options at another fork, settling on the left path, committed to working together despite diverging instincts. Tsurugi watches Yuka jot down notes, confusion clear on his face as he wonders aloud about her cryptic writing and its hidden meaning. Yuka sketches out her findings and prepares to explain, unwavering despite the pushback that there's no time for games. With sharp focus, she reveals a coded path, listing directional turns that unravel the mystery behind the abductions. Inspector Marulu's eyes widen in realization, awed by the manipulation and curse that turned innocent wanderers astray. Yuka elaborates, suggesting a barrier technique might be responsible, ensnaring anyone who dared follow the route in that exact order. Marulu clenches his fists, outraged at the cunning scheme designed to quietly kidnap children without notice. He turns to Yuka, praise and respect shining in his eyes, assuring her that her brilliance will finally get the recognition she deserves. Yuka tries to play off her insight with a nonchalant shrug, suggesting any competent investigator would have figured it out and chastising Tsurugi for missing the clues. Tsurugi bounds across the plaza, drawing the attention of his teammates who question his sudden absence and demand to know what he discovered. He quickly explains his intentions to fetch a tool, but is stopped by a barrage of questions once his sharp observation comes to light. Tsurugi's calm demeanor shifts as the realization of what he's seen begins to weigh on him, his determination visible in his silent stare. Marulu bows in apology to Yuka for his earlier mistake, but she brushes it off with gentle reassurance, insisting there's no need for blame. The mood softens as her words echo between them, restoring a quiet sense of unity to the group after their latest trial. Inspector Marulu is asked why he gets into trouble with his younger twin brother so often, quietly admitting that it's just the way things are between siblings. Yuka explains how their relationship never quite works out, confessing that despite attempts to patch things up, they always end up at odds. Tsurugi listens and sympathizes, admitting that he can totally relate, as his own clumsiness often drives his brother away. He reflects on the pain of strained sibling bonds, revealing that constant conflict makes it hard to reconnect after so much resentment. Yuka stretches back, suggesting maybe it's time they stop pretending to fix things if there's no real hope, her words tinged with melancholy. The two fall into a contemplative silence, the distance between them echoing in the empty space, each lost in thought about what it really means to be family. Inspector Marulu cups his hands to his face, wondering aloud whether subtle emotions are ever truly recognized in the world they inhabit. Yuka coolly dismisses her brother's feelings, declaring that her only concern is reclaiming the ring and nothing else. As the team convenes under towering ceilings, Tsurugi voices his wish to keep things simple, focusing solely on fulfilling his mission amidst complicated family ties. Yuka steels herself as she steps beyond the caution tape, resolute that now is the time to act and claim what matters to her most. Her determination draws a smile from Marulu, who watches the siblings navigate the crime scene, admiration and understanding growing as he observes their perseverance. Suddenly, Yuka's face twists in disbelief, while Tsurugi and Marulu speed into action. The chase to recover the ring begins with renewed urgency and hope. Yuka and Tsurugi race down the hallway, calling frantically after a young boy as his figure vanishes into the distance, urgency sharpening their every move. The child pauses, bewildered, as a giant hand stretches out from the shadows, its monstrous fingers curling around him in silent threat. A surge of shock ripples through the group as they witness the impossible, their eyes wide and breath caught at the sudden apparition. A close-up on the grotesque fist reveals its unnatural power, draining hope from the air and signaling grave danger ahead. As the hand retreats into the darkness, the boy disappears with it, leaving Yuka, Tsurugi, and Marulu stunned and helpless in the empty corridor. Tsurugi clenches his jaw and vows not to give up, determination blazing in his eyes as he strategizes a plan to rescue the lost child and defy the curse. Yuka and Tsurugi race down the hallway, calling frantically after a young boy as his figure vanishes into the distance, urgency sharpening their every move. The child pauses, bewildered, as a giant hand stretches out from the shadows, its monstrous fingers curling around him in silent threat. A surge of shock ripples through the group as they witness the impossible, their eyes wide and breath caught at the sudden apparition. A close-up on the grotesque fist reveals its unnatural power, draining hope from the air and signaling grave danger ahead. As the hand retreats into the darkness, the boy disappears with it, leaving Yuka, Tsurugi, and Marulu stunned and helpless in the empty corridor. Tsurugi clenches his jaw and vows not to give up, determination blazing in his eyes as he strategizes a plan to rescue the lost child and defy the curse. Yuka gasps as Tsurugi is whisked away, desperately demanding to know why the barrier only took him and left his katana behind. She reasons aloud that the barrier must be repelling sorcerers with too much cursed energy to keep them out, deducing that Tsurugi's weapon is a cursed tool. The group quickly discusses their options, piecing together that the barrier's function aligns with everything they've discovered so far. Yuka sinks onto the pavement in frustration, but soon sits up with a determination to follow Tsurugi's orders and report back, ready to plan their next move. Marulu questions her apparent lack of urgency, but she reassures him that she has a secret plan. If it works, it will reveal Tsurugi's location and a path forward. As Yuka strides confidently ahead, Marulu hesitates in uncertainty, torn between her composure and the urgency of their rapidly evolving mission. Yuka and Marulu discuss the urgency of calling Uzami for reinforcements, confident that a free sorcerer would rush to the scene in Tokyo. Tsurugi and Yuka argue passionately about whether to confront the danger head-on or follow orders to report back, tensions flaring between caution and conviction. Tsurugi's voice rises with fire, warning that if he dies, the others will regret it forever, showing the depth of his determination and fear. Yuka matches his intensity, insisting that they cannot let him fall and challenging anyone to stand down when a comrade's life is at stake. With fierce resolve, Yuka steps forward to face whatever lies ahead, her expression bold and unyielding. Tsurugi tightens his grip on his weapon, ready for battle, while shadows creep around them, signaling the encroaching danger they must confront together. Yuka shouts in frustration, accusing Marulu of forcing his own ideals onto her, while Marulu retorts that she just arrived and doesn't understand the situation. He fires back, insisting that without holding onto ideals, he's the one who gets hurt when things fall apart. Yuka and Marulu face off in the street, the tension between their clashing convictions threatening to boil over into something more. She admits that even if it hurts or she ends up humiliated, she can't bring herself to give up, her determination outlasting every setback so far. With steely resolve, Yuka declares she won't step in to save Tsurugi, the words heavy with defiance but laced with vulnerability. Marulu stands quietly, processing her decision, the moment charged with uncertainty and the weight of everything unspoken between them. Yuka stares forward, eyes blazing with newfound resolve, and quietly vows, "I'm gonna go punch his face in." Marulu looks on and then signals that it's time to move out, determination taking hold as they set their plan in motion. The group threads their way through the city, resolve strengthening as they move closer to their goal. Marulu demonstrates a strategic marker, using a chalk line and unique pattern to chart their progress and ensure they never lose their way. Tsurugi and another reflect on the risks in a dimly lit room, his companion calling him a fool for challenging the Jujutsu sorcerers on their own turf yet again. Frustrated by defeat, Tsurugi gnashes his teeth and glares into the darkness, retorting, "Who's the dumbass now?" as the next stage of their struggle looms. Marulu pointedly reminds his companion that as a Jujutsu sorcerer, he should already know the rumors about human trafficking, hinting at darker undercurrents. Tsurugi is incredulous, pressing Marulu to explain further and demanding the truth behind the cryptic comment. Their conversation turns surreal as Marulu reveals that aliens have come to Earth, the enormity of this claim hanging in the quiet room. A wide shot emphasizes the absurdity and weight of the topic, with the two sitting in silence, one calmly laying out the facts of off-world intervention. A cosmic panel reveals how the Inspector General considers the extraterrestrial invasion as significant as the legendary attack by Ryomen Sukuna decades ago. Tsurugi reels in shock, recognizing the name Ryomen Sukuna, the monster who devastated humanity before, struggling to process the implications for their current crisis. A control panel glows in a dimly lit chamber, voices debating the crippling effects of curses and the power struggles that have arisen since the Kishu massacre. Staring out over the planet, the inspector coldly predicts that an invasion is inevitable, convinced that aliens will bring war to Earth's doorstep. Tsurugi listens intently, seeking clarity as the inspector confirms the coming war will reveal Japan's secrets to the world and unmask its true allegiances. The weight of these revelations settles over the group as they realize that even legendary figures like Sukuna foresaw the eruption of conflict spreading from Japanese soil. Streetwise commentary hints at the everyday cruelty of the city, where profit and survival mean everything and the danger from curses lurks just out of sight. The true mastermind finally reveals their plan, vowing to make one final deal and profit by selling out the hero, signaling an impending betrayal that will shake everyone to their core. Tsurugi gives a cold, knowing glance, challenging his captor's motives and asking if he plans to sell him and the kidnapped child as a package deal. His suspicion is confirmed as the villain paces a stark corridor, unapologetically declaring that Tsurugi's life is nothing more than a commodity. Rows of cursed objects loom in the darkness, the villain promising to auction Tsurugi off to the highest bidder and venting his frustration with uncontrollable children. Tsurugi sits quietly, resigned yet alert, as the mastermind rants in the hallway about being fed up with the unpredictability and annoyance of Jujutsu sorcerers. A brief moment of introspection follows, Tsurugi thinking about all the times he's fought alone, the cost of his struggles casting a shadow over his resolve. Suddenly, the silence breaks as Tsurugi launches a counterattack, his movements swift and explosive, a final stand against the fate designed for him. Facing away from his captor, Tsurugi sits defiant on the cold floor, reflecting on how each conversation with children makes his enemy's hatred rise. Chaos erupts as Tsurugi and his foe exchange powerful, furious blows. Frustration over lost time and missed opportunities fuels their battle. Blood snaps through the air as Tsurugi encourages his enemy to scream at the top of his lungs, provoking the rage that churns between them. His foe obliges, howling that no one will come to save Tsurugi, reveling in arrogance and the savage joy of control. As the fight escalates, Tsurugi flips the momentum and sends his captor crashing violently, the impact exposing cracks in the villain's composure. In the aftermath, Tsurugi's icy gaze lifts, while Yuka and Marulu observe from above, measuring the cost and consequence of every desperate move. With steady hands, Yuka prepares to activate her cursed technique, promising it will balance forces and locate whoever is Tsurugi's true equal. She assures Marulu that it's safe to use just a little cursed energy, their hushed conversation carrying a mix of caution and hope. Together, they step out into the corridor, a brief pause showing uncertainty before each moves forward with renewed determination. A sudden flash transports the scene to Tsurugi's battleground. Yuka's call pierces the silence, and her technique locks onto his signature, bridging the distance. He hears her challenge and responds, startled as Yuka shouts to fight, summoning a defiant grin from Tsurugi even in his dire predicament. Both siblings charge at each other, fists flying as their cursed energy collides, chaos exploding in the corridor, proof they've found each other at last. Yuka and Tsurugi trade powerful punches, the intensity of their sibling rivalry flaring as each refuses to fall back. They circle each other with calculated steps, unleashing a flurry of blows that shake the ground beneath them. Yuka gasps in pain, tears welling in her eyes as she acknowledges Tsurugi's overwhelming strength. Determined, she watches him work tirelessly, realizing with a heavy heart how much effort he puts into everything he does. Their friends watch with concern, calling for the bad guy to give up and reflecting on what makes someone truly good or evil. A close-up of Yuka's determined gaze meets Tsurugi, both revealing a shared history of pain and perseverance as the battle continues. Yuka unleashes her savage jaw strike, sending shockwaves ripping through the air as her cursed technique collides with its target. The battle surges with brutal energy, both combatants spinning and tumbling as fists and feet blur in a dance of chaos. A powerful clash leaves them momentarily suspended, tension snapping as Tsurugi finds himself outmaneuvered by Yuka's swift attack. He narrows his eyes, realizing his enemy is armed and that the barrier technique used for kidnappings now fills the entire room. Marulu, fed up with the madness, demands the katana with exasperation, a sign that the fight has pushed everyone to their limits. With a final burst, Yuka and Tsurugi crash together in a whirlwind of curses and determination, their battle unresolved as chaos reigns. The cursed tool Hanyagi glimmers against a jet-black backdrop, promising power and danger with every spark. As talismans and barrier charms ignite, their glowing energy fuses directly into the blade, creating a deadly instrument fueled by both skill and sorcery. With a shout, Tsurugi unleashes his new technique, Badu sword drawing, its impact echoing as the full force of the move meets his enemy. The katana's supernatural fire intensifies, burning away the talismans that form the barrier and setting the room ablaze with cursed energy. Yuka retaliates with her savage jaw strike, her own power surging as she counters Tsurugi's advance in a fiery clash. A final collision rocks the room as Yuka's biting twist explodes into action, the impact sending shockwaves and ending the deadly standoff in chaos. Tsurugi hides a small smile, lowering his eyes in quiet relief as the struggle finally settles down. Marulu yelps in pain, comically waving his burned hand and bringing a moment of laughter to cut the tension between the trio. All three survey the aftermath, assuring themselves that the children are unharmed and debating whether to call the adults or continue as a team. Yuka stands tall and resolute beside Tsurugi, meeting his gaze with admiration. He promises to work harder from now on, the weight of his journey clear in his voice. An abrupt flashback shows Tsurugi as a young boy, racing to his grandmother and clinging to her for comfort, a reminder of the bond that started everything. His childhood voice, etched with longing, echoes out, crying for his granny in days gone by, while his friends smile nearby, recognizing how far he's come. Tsurugi looks up, surprised by his grandmother's gentle words, as she notes how much he resembles her in spirit. He stands ready with his wooden sword, recalling her advice about gaining strength, but warning that power comes with responsibility and caution. Inside, Tsurugi gazes at his hand and the empty hall, quietly yearning to be strong enough to earn his own protective ring one day. Later, after hearing his wish, his grandmother explains that the ring is a charm meant for protection, and that Tsurugi doesn't truly need it because he is already strong. A flicker of pride passes across his face, realizing his strength is recognized, and he grasps the chain with newfound confidence. Alone on the swing, Tsurugi lets out a bashful laugh, the memory of those words giving him courage and hope for whatever comes next. A gentle hand places a protective ring on the table, its meaning clear as the words, for those who truly need it, linger in the air. Tsurugi, age 11, sits solemnly in formal attire and asks why he's been chosen for the ring. His elder quietly responds, "Because you need it the most." He learns the decision came from the Gojo clan, but confides he doesn't want anything that sets him apart, longing for a more ordinary life. Intense eyes flash forward, searching for something truly meaningful. What he longs for is not a symbol, but relevance and belonging. A youthful vision of Tsurugi running through open wilderness captures his drive, the yearning to find his own strength outpacing any gifted charm. He lets go of the need for objects, telling his granny he doesn't want a ring or a sign. He'll become stronger on his own, as the wind carries his vow. Determination flashes in Yuka's eyes as she vows to take back the ring. No matter what the odds, power means nothing if she fails. A tense moment unfolds as the group reels from a shocking realization. Marulu begs Yuka to let him hold onto the ring for now, while confusion grips their faces. Their villain lies collapsed on the ground, muttering "idiots" over and over, his anger boiling in the aftermath of defeat. His hatred spills over as he swears that idiots deserve to die, spit and fury, coloring a face twisted by loss. Alarms echo through the chamber, the villain's final trick triggers, casting the same dangerous barrier technique in the room with the children. Tsurugi's jaw tightens, realizing the enemy's sinister plan. He steels himself to protect those he cares about as danger erupts anew within sealed walls. Yuka's face strains with anxiety as she realizes the villain plan to use the barrier to transfer only the children and leave them behind. The defeated enemy lies collapsed, but a broken smile creeps across his lips as he mutters that a buyer for the children is already waiting. Marulu's fists clench, his hair bristling with rage and dread as he braces himself for the coming disaster. A flash erupts from the barrier, a child vanishes in a swirl of darkness, leaving the team stunned and panicked in its wake. Yuka leaps desperately toward the spot, the villain, body lying motionless as the children disappear and chaos overtakes the room. Wide-eyed and shaken, Yuka turns to Marulu for answers, her voice trembling as she asks, "What was that?" while the group struggles to process what just happened. Tsurugi's voice trembles with urgency as he calls out to Marulu, demanding clarity and answers. Marulu stares up at the looming image of an alien ship, his mind racing as he processes the reality that aliens have arrived on Earth. Elsewhere, officials discuss the diplomatic failings in Kyoto, explaining how the world is reacting to the unexpected alien emergence. They realize the risk of missteps, worrying that something as simple as sending 2 male diplomats might offend alien gender norms and upend first contact. A grim official states the truth. From this moment forward, the outcome rests solely on luck. No strategy or prediction can guarantee survival. The last panel hammers home the uncertainty, a panoramic view of Earth from space, as the narrative warns that all their careful planning may now be for nothing. 2 dignitaries approach a grand chamber, offering formal introductions as they greet the enigmatic judges who will soon decide Earth's fate. Earth's representatives stand together before alien officials, fielding questions about their home and hoping their answers are received well. Tension mounts as the humans notice the aliens are speaking perfect Japanese, blurring the line between host and guest in this historic meeting. One dignitary reveals his name, extending a handshake and nodding that such cordial behavior is the norm for visitors on their planet, bridging 2 worlds with a simple gesture. Reflections on past failures flash by, with close-ups on worried eyes and text admitting Japan once lagged in diplomacy due to language and cultural barriers. In the council chamber, Earth's delegation requests to have a representative present and eagerly asks if there's a particular reason they were invited first, curiosity and hope mingling in every word. A towering figure stands in shadow, introducing himself with calculated words and masking his true intentions as the leader of the alien mission. Weary from stress, Marulu sprawls on a couch, the sterile lights and silent air amplifying his anxiety as he contemplates their situation. Quietly, Marulu checks whether he's still alive, calling out to Uzami for reassurance as exhaustion sets in and the full weight of the crisis dawns. Uzami's affirmation is little comfort. Marulu's nerves only sharpen as he realizes the grave danger surrounding everyone. Palms pressed to his temple, he now understands why the alien invasion is compared to Sukuna's calamity. The threat is as absolute as it is incomprehensible. He grimaces and concludes that, if the aliens wanted, they could overtly conquer the nation, and perhaps the world, leaving humanity's future dangling by a thin thread. A hand grips a glass of dark liquor, the speaker questioning whether appeasing the invaders is truly the only path forward. He scoffs at the logic of gratitude, cynically wondering if they're now supposed to thank the enemy for choosing not to destroy their home. A measured sip brings a brief pause, as the conversation shifts to how Japan once relied on American-run isolation during past security negotiations. An imposing, horned figure stands beside a suited official, the lurking danger of renewed isolationism underscored by their contrasting forms. The pages of government reports recount Japan's historic reluctance to act independently, its fate often tied to broader security treaties and foreign powers. A gentle but firm clink of the glass signals resolve. This time, there will be no repeating the mistakes of the past. Japan must chart a new course. A statesman spells out the new diplomatic strategy, arguing Japan must carefully avoid both subservience and provocation in its dealings with alien visitors. His colleague's piercing gaze reveals private turmoil. Only through hard-won restraint and resolve will they chart this perilous course. Clenching his fist, the leader insists Japan must not compromise on core principles at any cost, even if it means taking risks amid global uncertainty. He warns against appeasement, stressing that desperation for an easy resolution now will only postpone disaster and rob the nation of newfound strength. An advisor watches with cautious admiration, quietly surprised by the bold determination rising among the next generation of leaders. Finally, 2 officials share a muted moment above the city and pledge. Grown-ups will carry their share of Japan's fate from now on, instead of leaving it all to youth and happenstance. Yuka raises an eyebrow in disbelief, calling Tsurugi's suggestion a wild leap, as he quietly insists that aliens might be involved. Tsurugi sits on a bench, solemnly explaining that a curse user was the first to mention the alien threat, his words heavy with warning. He glances away, bruised and weary, as he explains that even the Inspector General compares the alien crisis to Ryomen Sukuna's legendary threat, making every diplomatic move fraught with risk. Yuka hesitates, remembering Sukuna as the monster who scarred her grandfather, and questions whether Tsurugi truly believes such far-fetched claims. Tsurugi shrugs, admitting the curse user is trash, but his judgment can't be ignored in times this uncertain. With a wary tone, Yuka contemplates whether bad people are better at recognizing their own kind, while Tsurugi reflects on the harsh reality that the fate of Japan, and maybe even the world, could ride on their next moves. Yuka is shocked as someone reveals a curse user is behind their troubles, a revelation that elevates the danger they face. Tsurugi admits the truth of the situation, his voice calm but grim as he explains the curse user's involvement. They discuss the heavy burden of their fight, the weight of a curse user's actions that ripple far beyond their immediate conflict. The scene shifts to the unknown kidnapper, cold and calculating, as he plots his next move with quiet menace. Tsurugi clenches his fist, prepared to confront the looming threat even as uncertainty grows around him. Yuka squares her shoulders, ready to stand firm beside him as the story hurtles toward its climax. Yuka questions Tsurugi's confidence in a certain informant, pressing him on whether that person's judgment can really be trusted amid so much uncertainty. Across the table, a man in a loose sweater greets the pair with cautious honesty, stating simply that he knew they would come. Quick, tense dialogue exchanges guesses and theories about recent events. A shared anxiety hangs in the air as they discuss public panic and a string of cursed incidents. Yuka and Tsurugi trade knowing glances as the informant quietly admits he's always felt smarter than those around him, especially at solving things that go beyond rote memorization. Yuka rolls her eyes as the informant proclaims his genius, then quickly teases that her brother, not her, is the real eccentric, sparking a laugh that briefly lightens the mood. With a playful jab, Tsurugi shrugs off the sibling banter, but the grave reality of their search remains, still lurking just beneath the surface. A would-be informant leans in with a sly grin, asking if Tsurugi and Yuka really want to know about aliens and testing their resolve before sharing information. Tsurugi presses him to clarify how he learned about the alien threat in the first place, determined to trace the story back to its real source. Data screens and news flashes fill the background as the narrative shifts. Any digital information is now fair game for leaks, especially from careless government offices. Amid their investigation, the group realizes the challenge. Unreliable paper trails and rumors feed escalating paranoia about recent alien sightings. Their quirky source offers only vague hints, reminding Tsurugi and Yuka that nothing's certain until there's real proof. Any new witness could still be a prankster or opportunist. With a frustrated sigh, the siblings agree. They aren't looking for wild theories, just concrete confirmation that aliens have truly arrived on Earth. Tsurugi, Yuka, and their informant gaze up at the night sky as he reveals that a massive mothership, enough to fill an entire stadium, floats above with 50,000 simulants inside. The group tries to make sense of the overwhelming numbers and the peril that comes with so many alien lives suddenly hovering over their homeland. A chill settles over Tsurugi as he imagines the impact. If all those aliens join the invasion, could the world ever fight back? In the distance, the pale moon rises over Kyoto, while the friends discuss whether Japan's defenses and resources can possibly withstand such a threat for long. They contemplate the limitations and hope for some degree of self-sufficiency, but acknowledge a breaking point will come if the standoff lasts. As the scene closes, reflections on the barriers, both literal and figurative, capture their fears about an uncertain future and what the aliens' true intentions might be. Tsurugi discusses the ambiguity of their informant's cooperation, warning Yuka it borders on treason and rebellion for those pulling strings behind the scenes. Yuka notes how cooperative the suspect was, but suspects it's only to stir up trouble for a sneaky escape if chaos breaks out. She reminds Tsurugi what happens to curse users who commit real crimes, hinting at severe consequences as they continue up the mountain path. Meanwhile, the informant flops back in exhaustion, resigned to his fate as the scene fades out and the search for answers continues elsewhere. The pair trek through an oppressively humid night, the landscape shifting from town to wilderness as they march toward their rendezvous. As Yuka calls out to Tsurugi, uncertainty hangs between them. Will the ship be at the mountaintop, or is danger lurking somewhere else on the edge of the forest? Yuka and Tsurugi discuss their strategy under tense starlight, debating whether to press further about the mysterious ring before moving on. Yuka clutches the ring, her face cast half in shadow, and makes it clear she's not giving it back this time. With determination, she tightens her grip as Tsurugi recalls how previous clan leaders used their power to claim both the ring and Koda's abilities. Yuka questions if the current leaders will end up just as domineering, as Tsurugi confesses his own doubts about whether he'll ever recover what's rightfully his. She pauses, her resolve hardening, while Tsurugi admits he always wanted her to experience the ring's weight, hoping she'd give it back willingly when the time came. But as the wind rustles around them, it's clear things have changed. Neither of them is ready to let go, their distrust and longing echoing beneath the forest canopy. Tsurugi's words echo in the dark, questioning whether their endless ambition to become stronger was ever truly about the right thing. He forges ahead into the tall grass, Yuka at his side, but shakes his head. Strength alone can't solve everything, not anymore. Yuka looks up, face illuminated by the eerie light of towering pillars, as something monumental seems about to descend from above. The cavernous opening beneath the ship casts a haunting shadow on the land, signaling both awe and looming uncertainty. Standing at the site where their ancestors once battled Ryomen Sukuna, the siblings reflect with quiet awe. Now, countless alien ships fill the sky in place of ancient terror. As dawn breaks, Tsurugi reminds Yuka that the world's fate now falls to Jujutsu sorcerers, vowing to face the encroaching unknown no matter what comes next. Yuka glances at the small treaty in her hand and confirms with a steady voice that the old agreement still holds, even as the future grows uncertain. She and Tsurugi walk a winding woodland path, remembering the dreams of their elders while silently pushing onward to meet destiny. Tears sting Yuka's eyes as she whispers her wish. She wants to be just like those heroes from before, the ones who faced impossible odds and never gave up. Determination burns in her as she repeats it, "I wanna be just like," mantra that carries her through the gathering dark. The siblings gaze up at two immense pillars splitting the sky, invoking the legendary names Yudor Akatsu and Maki Zenin as if to invoke their courage. Suddenly, Marulu bursts into the clearing with a bright smile, calling out for Cross, his energetic presence breaking the tension and reminding them they're not alone. Cross and Marulu arrive at a makeshift camp, but Cross firmly asks Marulu to return and stay with the Earthling sorcerers for safety, causing surprise. Marulu reacts with confusion, not understanding why Cross would send him away at such a critical time. The rest of the team debates the wisdom of Cross's decision, pondering if the caution is warranted given Marulu's powers and recent events. A serene moonlit sky looms over the group as Cross alone contemplates the delicate balance between conflict and conscience. Marulu's face flashes with resolve as he declares, "No, conflict is wrong," a cry for peace that surprises his companions. Cross calmly affirms Marulu's choice, assuring him it's the warrior's path to seek reason before confrontation, and everyone takes a moment to consider their next move. Tsurugi firmly tells Marulu that he has his own responsibilities to handle, refusing to be distracted by other matters. Marulu calls out to Tsurugi, concerned and wanting to intervene, but Tsurugi remains resolute about handling things in his own way. A cheerful Marulu boisterously recounts the food and peculiarities he's encountered among the Earthling sorcerers, his energy momentarily lifting the group's spirits. Cross, however, remains focused on his task and calmly declares he's busy, determined to see his mission through without distractions. A security alarm sounds loudly, its urgent beep filling the air as everyone reacts instantly to the unexpected warning. Yuka is stopped at a checkpoint, explaining she doesn't have her student pass but tries to pass through anyway, prompting questions and a tense exchange with security. Tsurugi glances down, realizing he'll need to relink his access in order to proceed, the weight of responsibility pressing on him. Across the busy transit gate, Yuka calls back to Tsurugi, urging him to go ahead without her as she handles her own delay. She finds herself alone in the city, the neon-lit skyline stretching above, but her focus stays sharp as she measures her next move. A watchful security guard approaches, warning her that lingering in such a spot could be mistaken for a suicide attempt, underscoring the city's hidden dangers. The guard dryly asks if Yuka's home world has rules as strict as Earth's, to which she simply scowls and tells him to be quiet. In the final panel, Yuka and Tsurugi stand side by side, Yuka coldly instructing him not to speak, both determined to forge ahead but carrying unspoken frustration between them. Tsurugi calls out with a wild grin, realizing that the real game has finally begun as the city glows behind him, full of hidden dangers. The story pivots to the Jujutsu Kaisen title and a new mission. The team must investigate a fresh curse, citing that's thrown officials into a frenzy. Tsurugi and Yuka join a bustling crowd. They are briefed about a shaman conflict in Gifu, tasked with finding answers before things escalate out of control. Close up, Tsurugi listens intently as news spreads. The epicenter of the current crisis was spotted in the heart of Gifu, and it could mean war. The trio trades nervous jokes. Each privately hopping the latest case is straightforward, but they're haunted by memories of when things last spiraled. Deep in the woods, an ominous spirit floats above the undergrowth, and the promise of confrontation hangs between the trees as the next chapter of their struggle is about to begin. Tsurugi and Yuka sit side by side on a speeding train, the quiet landscape rolling past as tension lingers in the space between them. Yuka turns her gaze to the passing scenery, lost in thought as she tries to reconcile their responsibilities with an uncertain future. A close-up shows Tsurugi murmuring that he doesn't want to talk, the weight of recent events making conversation too hard to bear. Trying to break the silence, Yuka asks if cursed spirits really only appear in Tokyo, her curiosity sparking a flicker of hope for dialogue. Marulu, ever cheerful, jokes about finally being allowed to talk, while Tsurugi hesitates before giving an indirect answer about city dangers. A holographic map illuminates the cabin, as Yuka explains cursed spirits are drawn to cities by the dark energy of crowds, their migration shaping every move, and the siblings begin to realize just how much more they still have to learn. Tsurugi questions the real reason he's being asked about the spaceship, quietly wary about what is being kept from him. Yuka wonders aloud if the mysterious shark ship could actually be another alien in disguise, raising suspicions among the group. Marulu's identity comes under playful fire as Tsurugi accuses him of being an alien as well, and the team debates how aliens would actually look if they did appear. Marulu, feeling cornered, nervously deflects by promising to explain more when the time is right, trying to mask his unease. Yuka offers a reassuring smile, insisting she knows Marulu isn't a bad person, while conceding there's clearly more to the story than she's being told. Marulu, caught off guard by her understanding, hesitantly calls out Yuka's name, signaling a shift from secrecy toward tentative trust. Yuka lanes in with uncertainty, admitting that the mysterious event was probably real, but neither she nor her friend can say for sure. An aerial view reveals the group gathered outside a local building, with an older witness insistently recounting how he saw something strange with his own eyes. On the street, one eyewitness gestures animatedly, swearing he saw it on a dark, moonless night, using every ounce of drama to make his claim convincing. Yuka quietly processes the witness's story, skepticism etched on her face as she pieces together what might really have happened. She reasons that the clues just don't fit, what people think they saw might not match reality at all. Yuka inspects an evidence file and sends a message. The autopsy found weird, non-bare bite marks, so she sets off to find another witness, determined to unravel the truth. Tsurugi and Marulu trudge through the woods, each silently questioning just how many bizarre secrets might be hidden across Japan. Turning to Marulu, Tsurugi asks if these kinds of incidents are secretly happening everywhere, his paranoia growing with every unanswered mystery. As they walk, Tsurugi directly confronts Marulu, demanding to know if the aliens are planning an underwater invasion and if war is on the horizon. Marulu's face tightens with anxiety, insisting he's there to make sure that very disaster never happens. Marulu fires back, challenging Tsurugi's confidence in earthling rationality and morality, and wonders aloud whether any human is truly qualified to judge alien intentions. A sudden confrontation erupts, with Marulu pushed to his limit, asking why Tsurugi is picking a fight, revealing that fear, frustration, and mutual uncertainty run deeper than either wants to admit. Tsurugi and Marulu argue heatedly, each accusing the other of hiding their true priorities and playing games with people's lives. A flashback panel cuts through the noise. Tsurugi demands why Marulu used his cursed technique only now and not at the critical moment when it mattered. Marulu's response is burdened with guilt. Orders from higher-ups forced him to stay back, his hands tied even as innocent lives were threatened. Tsurugi's eyes brim with anger and disbelief, forcing Marulu to confront whether following orders was worth risking a child's fate. Suddenly, a massive shark spirit lunges from the undergrowth. Both Tsurugi and Marulu freeze, their eyes wide as the creature barrels toward them with terrifying speed. They barely have time to react, faces twisted in shock as the monstrous shark looms closer, making it clear that talking is over and survival is all that matters. Tsurugi drops low and shouts for Marulu to get out of the way as a lethal threat barrels toward them, all pretense falling away in the face of real danger. Marulu protests in panic, warning that using cursed tools here could spark a wildfire in the dry forest, forcing them to reconsider their strategy mid-battle. They strike a comically brief truce, both realizing the urgent wisdom in holding back their most destructive powers, lest the entire forest becomes an inferno. Sweat trickles down as Marulu nervously questions their options, desperate to know how Tsurugi intends to stop the monster now. The giant shark spirit lunges again, forcing both to dodge, its gaping jaws nearly catching them as their hesitation is punished by razor teeth and wild momentum. Marulu blurts out that Tsurugi can attack the beast without using fire, finally seeing a path forward, and hopping their combined skill will be enough to survive. Tsurugi snarls that he doesn't need anyone's help, brandishing his sword with fierce determination as the danger mounts. A massive shark spirit looms over Marulu, who stammers in shock that he's never seen these kids before, clearly rattled by the turn of events. Tsurugi and Marulu's faces are frozen in twin terror, both thrown off balance by the sheer absurdity and fear of their monstrous adversary. Marulu's expression stretches from disbelief to panic as realization dawns. They're facing something far beyond their usual foes. From a distance, the duo spot their opponent, a man inside a bizarre shark costume who introduces himself with comic bluster, "I'm only 46. The confrontation twists into parody as the shark-costumed man quizzes the students about Jujutsu High, grilling them on what business sorcerers could possibly have way out here in the countryside. Tsurugi groans internally as the shark-costumed man boasts he's a Jujutsu High alumnus, revealing that, unfortunately, he really is Tsurugi's senpai. Their unlikely host complains about life in the boonies, lamenting the lack of real meals, friends, or even a proper drink, and asks what brings students out so far from the city. The man introduces himself as Sada, a former Jujutsu sorcerer, and the group explains their mission, rumors of a man-eating beast on the loose. A shadowy close-up finally reveals the source of their anxiety. A terrifying man-eating tiger called Tornasuk is on the prowl, and Sada has been hunting him down alone. Marulu and Tsurugi are shocked to learn that not just a spirit, but a real wild tiger has surfaced in Japan, a predator long thought extinct. They listen awestruck as Sada details past cult attacks and how the resurgence of Jujutsu energy has allowed impossible creatures to appear once more, shattering everything they thought they knew about their world. Tsurugi narrows his gaze, admitting the fear that even someone like him can be rattled by locking eyes with a real predator. A flashback reveals a sprawling solar plant near the village, its construction displacing wildlife and fueling the rise of paranormal incidents. The local river dried up, the entire ecosystem thrown into disarray, and wildlife, including dangerous predators, forced nearer to human settlements. Beside a crackling campfire, Sada explains that his cursed energy lets him summon and power up spiritual weapons no matter the location, but insists no villagers are really to blame for the chaos. Sada, burdened by the hunt, says he's determined to kill the beast but doesn't take pride in it. He simply doesn't want to see anyone else harmed. Tsurugi's voice turns cold. A beast that's killed people must be exterminated, especially now that it's tasted human flesh, and hesitation is no longer an option. Sada admits the tiger was forced from its home by human encroachment, questioning whether it's right to judge the beast for merely surviving under new, unnatural circumstances. A panoramic view shows Sada's distant house, built away from the villagers who shunned him, yet close enough to keep a wary eye on the dangerous tiger. Sada asserts his strength as a Jujutsu sorcerer, confident he could manage a wild tiger if needed, even though his isolation is a problem in itself. As Tsurugi questions whether keeping wild predators is ever justified, Sada insists the choice isn't truly his, torn between duty and compassion. Pressed by Tsurugi about the risk to more innocent lives, Sada refuses to promise anything. His only plea is for understanding, for the sake of the tiger as much as himself. With a worn, resigned expression, Sada scoffs at the idea of ritual suicide, quietly bearing the burden of responsibility while refusing to offer any false absolution. Tsurugi's expression hardens as he insists that nothing, not even an apology or ritual act, could console the loved ones of those lost to the beast. A tense calm settles as Tsurugi suddenly senses danger lurking near, prompting him to call out a warning and freeze in his tracks. The brush explodes into chaos as the tiger lunges, its immense form barreling straight for the group, catching them off guard. Sada's eyes widen, explaining with grim humor that a shark was summoned for its uncanny ability to scent blood, perfect for tracking killers like Toranasuk. The ground erupts with supernatural force as Sada bellows his challenge, shouting that he knows exactly where the man-eating tiger is hiding. In a final, breathless moment, Sada's voice and memory blur together as he acknowledges his foe's familiar cunning. The deadly dance between hunter and hunted reignites under the haunted forest canopy. A brutal slash cuts the air as Sada lunges, risking everything in a desperate move to protect his comrades and confront the lurking threat head-on. Tsurugi and Marulu shout after him, "Old Sada," as he darts into danger, determined to settle the score himself. A sudden flashback shows a young Sada facing down a tiger cub, wise enough to apologize for surviving but firm in his resolve that every creature, kid or beast, must eventually face the world alone. Older and alone, Sada sits quietly with a now-grown tiger by his side, reassuring his companion that solitude will only make them stronger in the end. With a small, pained smile, Sada tells the tiger that help will come if things ever get truly serious, but until then they must fend for themselves, ready or not. The memory ends at Sada's doorstep, his eyes full of worry and resolve, haunted by the knowledge that some burdens one has to carry alone, even when hope seems distant. The tiger's eye glints with wild intelligence, remembering how it was forced to attack out of desperation the moment it lost its only home. A single paw print in the earth speaks volumes, each step a lonely echo of the life the tiger once knew and can never return to. Sada, battered and weary, faces the beast and apologizes. He's become prey now, acknowledging the tragic price both hunter and hunted must pay. The tiger leaps and roars in a blur of violence, baring fangs at the only man who's ever truly understood its suffering. A distant mountaintop stands still beneath wheeling birds, while those below wait in tense silence, each aware the end of this bitter chase draws near. Tsurugi steels himself, quietly declaring that whatever happens, this is his responsibility as a Jujutsu sorcerer, even as Sada, with a sad smile, tells him not to feel sorry. Some destinies simply can't be helped. Tsurugi reveals his mission is to observe and protect, but he never expected to unravel the painful secrets behind Sada's life or face such brutal choices between duty and empathy. Marulu, stunned, repeats twin brother, as Sada admits his own brother once lost control, forcing him to make a devastating decision in the past. Sada, posture tense but voice resigned, explains that because his twin went berserk, eliminating him became the only option, his own hands forever marked by that memory. The conversation grows uneasy as Tsurugi offers a quiet apology, recognizing the heavy loneliness Sada's kept in his heart for so long. Sada brushes aside the sentiment, politely asking Tsurugi to keep his confession private. The pain isn't something he wants circulating for others to judge. Tsurugi, haunted by the weight of new knowledge, asks what compelled Sada to trust him with such a secret, and for a fleeting moment, both sorcerers share an understanding built on vulnerability and scars. Sada, with an earnest gaze, tells Tsurugi that he chose to share everything simply because he wants to be friends, not just allies. Marulu, surprised but tentative, wonders if they can truly trust Sada, but Tsurugi admits that Sada's lonely nature makes him someone worth listening to, even if he's also stubborn. Just as a brief moment of peace settles in, a tiger cub suddenly appears from the underbrush, drawing startled reactions from everyone nearby. Tsurugi and Marulu blink in disbelief at the sight of the cub, piecing together that Sada might not be as alone in the wild as he claimed. Tsurugi stoops down, eyeing the animal with a mixture of caution and curiosity, while Sada sits back, watching the encounter play out. As Marulu cries out for him to stop, Tsurugi gently lifts the cub by the scruff, presenting it to Sada, a moment both of absurdity and tentative new beginnings. Tsurugi stands close and quietly warns Sada not to look away. This time, they must all face the truth together, no matter how hard it is. A trembling Sada promises not to falter, his resolve shaken but real as he steels himself for what comes next. Marulu hesitates, but asks Sada if he's certain he wants to continue, sensing the emotional toll that still lingers in the air. Tsurugi gazes into the distance, reminding everyone that nobody really knows how the future will unfold, but conviction is all they can rely on. The group quietly sits in the grass, Sada lost in thought while Tsurugi stands sentinel, each aware that their choices now could change everything. As sunlight brightens the mountains, Marulu manages a hesitant smile and admits Tsurugi is right. The only way forward is together, each bringing their own hope to the unknown.